Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. Official visit season is pretty much over, okay? There might be a couple more visits towards the end of July, but now we're getting into commitment season. It's coming up pretty much starting in July. I think that July 4th is the first really big day. So we have to take a look at that big board, see where we're at with all these players, and see if we can still finish in that top five. Please make sure, as always, to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, so y'all already know the vibes. What we got to the left is the expected commitments, and then to the right are the players that are possible commits. And to the left, all those players, I would say I'm at about a 97% or higher. Some of them I'm at more like 98%, but that's just me. That's just based off of everything that I've been seeing from the insiders, experts, listening to them talk, kind of reading their body language. I feel really good about who we have on the left. Now, after we kind of go through all these players, we are going to bring up and see how does our current class look without any of these extra commitments. And, if the ones that are expected to commit do commit, what that's going to do to our class as far as getting into that top five. So starting off with David Sanders, five-star offensive tackle, the best offensive lineman in this entire class. Been trending towards our volunteers for a very long time. I feel great about this one. Actually, I probably feel the most confident that he is going to be coming on home to Knoxville. I think that he's already a silent commitment. And whenever you listen to the experts talk, they're saying that, hey, we're still in a very tremendous spot with David Sanders, even after his big-time official visit to Ohio State last weekend. It sounds like that visit did go well. But I would say that they're our toughest competition. And some of their insiders are saying, well, we feel really good about David Sanders, but we've also seen here lately some of them coming out and saying, well, Tennessee must be offering them, like quarterback money, all that type of stuff. So we are in a really good spot with David Sanders. Obviously, that will be huge for this class and for our future moving forward. The next player, four-star wide receiver Travis Smith, he is the truth, okay? I got to see him play in person. 6'3", 200 pounds, very smooth, very fluid athlete. He's a dog. He's got a lot of that Mike Matthews to him. Once I heard about a month ago that he was kind of working closely or talking to Mike Matthews about, why did you leave Georgia and go on to Tennessee? At that point, I felt really, really good about our chances to land him. Before that, I was like, I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. But now what we're seeing is it's pretty much between us and maybe UGA, maybe Alabama. But really, he's already crossed off UGA. He's already crossed off Alabama. If you listen to what he said last weekend after his OV, the way that he was giddy, all that, you could tell he's coming to Knoxville. I feel very, very confident with him as well. He's supposed to be announcing July I believe it's the 13th. So expect a whole lot of fireworks throughout the entire month of July. And also with David Sanders, something that I did not mention is that he has been, for a long time now, expecting to commit in, like around August. But I think that there's a pretty good chance that he moves that up. Okay, so don't be surprised if maybe around the same time that Travis Smith announces, if David Sanders doesn't come out and announce, within a week or two of that as well. So we should be having a lot coming off the board in July. Next, we have Deshaun Brame, 6'6", four-star tight end. He's the only tight end that we would even add extra in this class because we've already got a really good one in Jack Van Dorsalier. But adding two guys, at this position would be huge. I mean, I love his game. I love what he can bring to our volunteers. And he's actually set to announce tomorrow. We will be going live for that if we can figure out what time it starts, okay? We have not seen any official times yet. Right now, it's down between us and Oregon, and I think Oklahoma kind of has like an outside shot. But the biggest thing with Deshaun is that his girlfriend either already is playing soccer at Tennessee or she's going to as a true freshman next season. I think that really bodes well for us. I just feel very confident with him. So the top three players on this side of the list, I feel the most confident with, and I didn't set it up that way. It's actually set up based off of their on three, player ratings, but I think that that's huge. Now, this next one right here, four-star safety, Shady Hayward. He's one that I've wanted to bring to Knoxville for a very long time, but over the past couple of weeks, some things have kind of come out and, maybe that light just kind of turned on for me. I'm seeing some things. I'm like, we really need a good safety. Like we need, I wouldn't even say Eric Berry, but he would be maybe like the closest thing to an Eric Berry that we've seen in a long time up in Knoxville. We need somebody like that on the back end. It's so critical. It's so important. I think safety might be the most important position on defense these days. I mean, if you just talk about, if you can only have one guy that's perfect, he's a 100 overall and everything else, and then everybody else is just like a C, I would probably go with the safety position just because they're so versatile. They're going to help you out in run support. They're going to help you out in pass coverage. They can blitz. They can do everything at a really high level. And if you want to have a top defense, if you want to have a top team, you need excellent safety play. But adding a guy like Shady Hayward would definitely give that to us. To me, he's a guy that could come in and compete for a starting spot as a true freshman. And even if he doesn't start, he can push the guys that are already up on campus to, step their game up. And I'm not saying that they necessarily need to, but I mean, iron sharpens iron. That's always going to be a really good deal. For him right now, I've been a little bit concerned with what the experts are saying. And it sounds like UGA is kind of still in the mix, but right now it's down between us, South Carolina, and Florida. I feel really good about our chances, y'all. I really sincerely do. We've been the team that's been recruiting him the hardest and the longest. So at the end of the day, he sees, hopefully, he will see, good opportunity to come in and play early and turn into a really high NFL draft pick. I think that he's going to be an absolute and total star in our system. So Shady, if you're watching, we want you to come on home, man. He's planning on announcing July the 27th, which is his birthday. Travis Smith, I believe, is also announcing on his birthday. So again, man, sticking with that theme of July being a big time announcement month for our Volunteers. The next one right here is 4-star linebacker Jaden Perlotti. Now, he goes to Buford High School. He's extremely versatile. He can rush the passer. He could play more of a Mike type of a, traditional linebacker position as well. I think that he could play star in our system. I think that he could play safety if we need him to. So just extremely versatile. He's been committed to UGA for a very long time. I feel good about our chances right here. I mean, obviously, that's why he's over here. But I would say that out of everyone that's over here, he would be one that I have a little bit of a question mark with, just because I think that, his family kind of have been UGA fans for a very long time, and it might kind of be hard for them to step away from that. I don't know exactly what's going on with, how he's feeling and all that. I haven't talked to him probably since like last week, but I will be speaking to him soon. I still feel very, very good about it, especially coming off of our last talk, our last conversation, kind of talking to his dad and stuff. I think that Tennessee is in a great spot, but he's going to be one that comes all the way down, I would say, until like signing day. Until he signs, there could be a whole lot of twists and turns in this one, but it would be absolutely huge if we could add Jaden. And the next player is going to be 4-star defensive tackle Bryce Jenkins. Now, he could also play offensive line. I love that type of versatility to be able to play on both fronts. That's huge, just because you never know when you might need to ask somebody to step in and fill one of those voids. But we want him to play defensive tackle. And I feel like he's going to be coming on home to Tennessee, set to announce probably within like the next week or two. Sounds like Maryland is our toughest competition for him. But, his father did play at Tennessee. He played basketball for us back in the 80s. So he's a legacy kid. I think that at the end of the day, based off what the experts are saying anyway, if the distance from home isn't a big factor for him, Tennessee's in a really good spot. I don't even think that necessarily is a very big deal. To me, he just strikes me as the kind of a kid that, maybe he wants to stay kind of close to home, but he doesn't need to be, right down the street. So I love that, and adding him clearly will be huge for us. Now, the last player that I feel like is an expected commitment for our Volunteers is going to be 4-star cornerback Onis Konanbanny. He's one that, he kind of committed already on his OV, but it's not quite official just yet. So what happens with him over the next few weeks is going to be huge. I don't know when he's, expected to announce, but I would say within, I would say 20 or so days, he's probably going to be coming off the board. I think he's coming on home to Tennessee. He's one, too, that, I would say that if some of these other big-time prospects do commit, he'll probably feel more comfortable coming on home, right? Because he has been kind of a guy that has, flirted around with some different schools and said, oh, I love this team coming off of this visit, love that team coming off of this visit. But with us getting that last OV, I know that the staff is going to do a good job of staying in contact with him. But seeing some of these other big-time prospects and players committing to Tennessee would probably make him want to commit as well. So feel good about that side of the list. Now on to the possible commits. Josh Petty, 5-star offensive lineman. He could play inside. He could play outside. I think that we are kind of, I wouldn't say, maybe we're kind of like trending away for him. Florida State feels like the pick right there. So that would be huge if we could land him, just because he grew up as a Tennessee fan. I'm just starting to feel a little bit less confident by the day. Now, the next player right here, 4-star defensive lineman Marion Dye. For me at this point, I would say him, probably David Sanders, and maybe Shady Hayward, I feel like are going to be the most important players for us to get in this class. You could also throw Jaden into that mix because we don't have any linebackers committed. But all these guys, I feel like we really need to get them. Now, we do already have a strong side D in commitment. And, I really like Jaden Lofton. I think that he's going to be a great player. I think that he could play strong side D in, or he could grow into a defensive tackle. So a lot of versatility there. But for me, Marion Dow, watching his film, I'm saying, dude, he can play anywhere on the defensive line at an extremely high level, and he can be really good size at any position. So that's one that I hope that we can get sounds like it's going to be between us and Ohio State. But Purdue, I mean, I guess they're throwing him a whole bunch of money. If I'm if I'm Coach Heupel, I'm going to try to counter offer. Now, I don't know how much money they have up there. You know, I don't want to be counting people's pockets and all that, but I would absolutely love to land him. To me, he's another kind of, generational type of a talent. The same thing that we said about Isaiah Gibson. If we can add Marion, I really even feel like Marion Dye is even more so than Isaiah Gibson is. I feel like he's going to be bumped up to a 5-star at some point. But yeah, that would be huge if we could land him. Not quite sure what his timeline is, but probably, I would say by sometime in August, he should be coming off of the board. Hopefully, we can land him. We got to do whatever we can for that one. Now, the next player is 4-star offensive tackle Juan Gaston. He is Travis Smith's teammate down there at Westlake High School. A lot of folks think he's going on to UGA, but I've kind of felt for some time, okay, and I'm hearing the insiders for our volunteers saying the same thing. You really don't know what he's going to do, right? Like, it sounds like he grew up as an Oregon fan. If he wants to go far from home, then he will end up going to Oregon more than likely. But is it a slam dunk that he goes to UGA? I don't think that it is. I would say right now I'm at about 70% that he goes to UGA. And I would say, everything else is just he's, going to be going to a different school. But maybe he says, I don't really want to go to UGA, but I don't want to go too far away from home. That's when I feel like Tennessee can step in. That would be huge if we could add 2 really good offensive tackles. As I've said before, I feel like Juan Gaston would be that right tackle, and then David Sanders will be that left tackle. But we'll keep a close eye out on that. Not quite sure what his timeline is. That's kind of a long shot, but anything is possible. The next player is going to be 4-star linebacker Christian Gass. Sounds like it's between us and UGA for him. He's from Covington, Georgia. I don't know what he's going to do. I would love if, we could add him and add Jaden Pilati, because now that's 2 players that fit the mold of what Coach Hinge wants in a linebacker to a T. Guys that are long and guys that can move out in space. Both of these guys can do that, I feel like, at a very, very high level. Christian Gass could also, very similar to a Jaden Pilati, could step up and be that Leo for you if you need him to, or just come off the edge as a blitzer. So I really like his game. But, again, it's down between us and UGA. We think that within the next couple of weeks, he's going to be coming off the board. I don't know what happens, in between that time. I would say that for him, I'm at about 50-50. The next player is going to be 3-star wide receiver DJ Miller. I have not heard a whole lot about him since his OV from the insiders, but, I believe that he visited Kentucky last. If we could land him, that would be huge. Now, I don't know if we would take him and Travis Smith. Probably not. All eyes right now are on Travis Smith, but if for any reason Travis Smith does not commit, then I feel like DJ Miller would be the next one. I really like the way that he looked just in his picture standing next to Coach Heupel. He's got a good frame. Looks like he's about Travis Smith's size. I think that they're very similar players. But, I would give the edge a little bit at this point just from looking at their films to Travis Smith. But he's a really good one. We don't know where he's going to end up at. Hopefully it does, end up being with our volunteers. Even if we do have Travis Smith, I would like to be able to add them both. That's just for me personally. I think that, not to get too far off topic here, but just looking ahead, I think that there are, maybe a couple of players that will end up transferring out that are the same type of body. So it might be beneficial for us to add maybe one more player at that position. Next player is going to be 3-star running back Shakai Mills-Knight. He just came off of an OV. I don't remember if it was to Ole Miss or Auburn. One of those two, he's leaning towards them. And I've said that for some time. I just really didn't feel like he was going to end up in this class. And based off of what the insiders are saying for our volunteers, it does not sound like that's going to happen. But you really never know until everything is all said and done. I would love to see him in this offense as that bigger body back that we've been looking for to add along with a Justin Baker. I just think that that would be a great 1-2 punch. But if he decides to go on, somewhere else, we've got to try to find another player that can kind of fit that same mold. It should be several players out there that we can find. It's just going to be up to the staff to kind of pull the trigger on those guys. And I would not be surprised to hear about some new offers going out to some of these running back prospects with a similar build, as far as their frame, things like that. Now, the next player is going to be 3-star athlete Dwayne Morris, who is currently committed to USC. I don't know exactly where we're at with him, but he's a player that can play running back. He can be sort of like a slot wide receiver. I can see him playing defense. I like him a lot more on offense, though. But I'll just say this, right? I mean, a lot of these players that have been committed to USC are starting to decommit. And as we've said, I mean, we said this months and months and months ago, we knew that this was going to start happening because people didn't understand how the tax situation works out in California. But as they get more educated to that, and I know that there's several big-time programs that want these players that are saying, hey, if you go out there, they're $500,000 is really going to end up being, like 250, 260,000. Whereas if you come here, you're going to get most of that money, or, you're not going to, you're going to get more than that. So I think that that's a pretty big factor in it. But especially, coming from, California to Tennessee with no state taxes, I could definitely see that happening. But he's one to keep a close eye out on for sure. Sounds like he will be visiting our Volunteers maybe at the end of July. Now, the last player that we're going to be talking about with the probable commits is going to be 3-star offensive lineman Jacoby Ward. He's more of an interior guy, and he's kind of been leaning towards our Volunteers. It's going to be between us and Auburn. Does he still want to come here with all the big-time guard commits that we already have? I don't know that he does, but he's set to announce on July the 4th. We'll see what happens with that. All right, now let's talk about where our class is currently in 2025. As y'all can see, according to On3, we're 12th nationally. We're 7th in the SEC, and we have an average score of 90.14. We told y'all that we need to get 21 commitments with an average score of about a 91 to get into the top 5. And I'll just kind of scroll through here for y'all so that y'all can take a look at all the players that we have committed. It looks really good. Okay, I think that we are in a good spot. Maybe we can get to that top 5 class. And now let's take a look at our commit breakdown as of June the 28th to see if we can break into the top 5 according to On3. So to the left, what you're going to see are the current commits. There's 15 of them. And up under that, I have each position group and the rating, like the average rating of that position group. And it's ordered from the highest to the lowest. And you can see what the overall average is up under it. Now, to the right, we have the players that we are expecting to commit to our Volunteers added in to see where we could end up at the end of this whole thing. It's 22 commitments right there. And we told y'all that once we get up over 21, if we have an average score of a 91 or better, we feel like we can get into the top 5. And as you can see right there, we are very, very close to it. Now, just kind of diving deeper into this, okay? If you look at each position group, especially with the current commits, quarterback is always going to be the most important for our team. And some of y'all might say, well, that's for every team. But if you look at UGA, quarterback is not a very important position. They're not asking their quarterback to do a whole lot. I know that Kirby Smart said that they do, but I mean, Carson Beck doesn't really do anything. He throws the ball to the middle of the daggone field and he hands the ball off. He dumps it off to his tight ends. It's all you got to do is just manage the game inside of that offense. For us, the quarterback is expected to make plays, right? Like you have to be a baller to play quarterback for us. So I think that that's big. Obviously, the offensive line is going to be really big. Both fronts is going to be huge. Tight end is another one that's high up on this list that's huge inside of our system. They do a lot. I mean, they block, they run the football some, they go out for passes. They do a lot in this offense. And, again, you keep on going down, looking at the defensive front seven. We're doing a great job there. Now, back over to the expected commits. Everyone that's in black are, players that would be added into this class, right? Like those are the ones that are going to be new. So linebacker is a whole new position category that we don't see because we don't have any, current commits. But once we add a guy like Jaden Pilati, then you see that they end up being the second highest rated position group on this team in this class. And then on down, offensive line goes up from a 90.81 to a 92.18. Tight end goes from a 90.22 to a 91.62. And, with the offensive line, we would be adding David Sanders. With the tight end, we will be adding Deshaun Brame. Wide receiver goes up from a 89.40 to a 90.73 right there. We would just be adding Travis Smith. Safety goes from an 89.47 to a 90.65. That's adding Shady Hayward. Defensive tackle goes from an 89.80 to an 89.96. That would be adding Bryce Donovan Jenkins. And then right here, cornerback goes up from an 87.44 to an 87.95. That would be adding Onis Conanbanny. And you can see right here at the bottom that the average would be a 90.97. So right there on the cusp of getting into the top 5. I feel like if we want to get into the top 5 with this class, we'd have to add everyone that we are expecting to add, plus one more player. And I'm hoping that it's Marion Dye. He's the one out of that entire group. I would love to be able to add all of them. But he would be the one single person that if we could add to this class, I think that not just for us to be top 5 according to these sites and all that, but on the field, the difference that would make would be huge. And what we would see, I would say, over the next couple of seasons as these freshmen and all that are producing well, it's not just James Pierce. What we'll see is Tennessee is going to turn into a school that is getting all the top defensive linemen. So that's my hope right there. And even if we don't finish top 5, y'all, we should definitely be, I would say, top 7 at the end of this whole thing. It doesn't really matter what the On3 ratings or any of these other sites' ratings are. It's about how the players actually perform, how they fit into our system. We watch the film on all these guys for that reason. We give them our own individual grades. And There are several players that I can tell you right now, I have absolutely no doubt will be bumped up in their ratings at the end of this whole thing. One guy is Tyler Redmond. I mean, I know that he's going to have a phenomenal season. For him to actually be our lowest rated player in this class so far is a joke. I mean, he's one of the best cornerbacks in this class, if not the best cornerback in this class so far. I think that he has tremendous, tremendous upside. Justin Baker, same thing could be said about him. You know, they're going to get their offensive line fixed this season at Buford, so expect for him to have a breakout year. And that's just to name a couple. There's several other players in this class that will get a bump in their rating. So at the end of the day, we probably will end up finishing top five. But something else that I've kind of been noticing is that we do a really good job inside of that transfer portal. I think that, maybe especially like with the secondary, we're looking more for some veteran players. It just sounds like that's what the secondary coaches like, all those veterans that can come in and hopefully play early. That's just kind of speculation on my part. I've heard a few other people hinting towards that, but P and I will probably be talking more about that in tomorrow's video. Thank y'all so much for sticking all the way to the end. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.